Hey there, welcome back to Total Geek Live, Baltimore Presents. I am Baltimore, and today I am bringing you the Kang Dynasty. That is a 16-part storyline that took place in Avengers issue 41 through 55, and the annual in 2001. It's a fantastic 16-part series. I love kind of long-form storytelling like this. It's written by Kurt Busiek, really great creator, and I thought it was a really fantastic story about world domination, and it played on a lot of elements, and it came out at a very interesting time because this started June of 2001, and we know what happened in September of 2001, and there are some unfortunate similarities that the storyline and real life actually intertwine. The United Nations is destroyed by Kang. However, he does save all the people inside of it. And then DC is destroyed, although he saves all the people inside DC. So I'm actually pretty impressed that Marvel went ahead with the way that the storyline was written. Perhaps they made a couple of changes to it, but for the most part, from everything I hear, that the story went on as is. But it was really notable because it was very strangely present, timely for what was going on, and I think that real world resonance kind of elevated my appreciation for this story. So Kang is a 30th century warlord who has menaced the Avengers in the past, from I think very early on in the origin of the comics. And he comes back to the 21st century to take over the world. And interestingly enough, he is the only Marvel villain who has done that, physically taken over the world without mind control, like Doctor Doom with the Purple Man in the Emperor Doom's graphic novel, or an alternate reality like Age of Apocalypse. So that's pretty notable to kind of keep in mind when you think about this storyline. And he comes back with his son, Marcus, who has a very complicated history with Miss Marvel, which I will not get into right now because it's a very dark situation. But he comes back and he announces that he's going to conquer the world, and anyone who conquers any land in his name will have a place in his new world order. And the reasons he was kind of doing this was because he wanted... if he knew that if he attacked, even with his advanced future army, a united Earth would repel him. So he needed to get the Earth divided, and that's what he did. So he got the Atuma's Atlanteans to attack. He got the Presence, which is a metaphysical source in Russia, to attack Russia. And then he got the Deviants to attack. So there was a lot of things going on that allowed for Kang to overcome and overwhelm the forces of the Earth and stop the Avengers from, fully preventing this atrocity. He destroys the UN, and we have a wildly large group of Avengers that come to try to stop this. Wasp leads a lot of the Earth-based attacks and storyline, which is really great because I've always loved Janet Van Dyne. I think she's a very fascinating and complex character who's grown from a very ditzy kind of character at the very beginning to being the chairperson of the Avengers for a while, and has led the Avengers teams quite successfully for a few times. To have her be the lead person, I thought was really great. And she, sadly, is the one who actually had to cede the world to Kang at the end, because she didn't want anyone else to die or be hurt, so she said, we'll figure out how to make this as easy as possible. But we do have a lot of storylines that are bubbling through the back that kind of heat up in this storyline. And one of them is the Triune Understanding, which is a sort of stand-in for a certain Scientology church who believes in this kind of ancient metaphysical deal that they have, that they will be saved from all these invaders if they believe and they use their powers to do this. And it's interesting. They actually had a hero triathlon who was able to use the triune understanding, the Triforce, um, to enhance his own abilities. And he was a member of the Avengers for a while, and they are trying to stop Kang, but they also realize that if they go in concert with him, they could probably double cross him and save themselves, but also save the world. So they would be the ones who would be in the right, so to speak. Um, we have a lot of things happening here. We have Quasar, we have Firestar, Justice, Triathlon, and Vision in the space when they discover the I think it's the triple I, or the triple evil from the Triune Understanding is a pyramid behind the moon, which has been hiding, and so they discover that, and they're like, "Oh my God, we got to figure this out." The warship from Kang was called the Damocles sword, and it's actual full sword that he stabs into the earth. Great, great image of the comic. I have to show you about that. But it was really fascinating to see that group come together because at this point, Justice and Firestar were off the team. However, they were silently infiltrating the Triune Understanding, so they came back into it, and you got to see them come together again. And then you have the Earth-based heroes. You have Thor, Iron Man, Miss Marvel, Firestar, Wonder Man, and they actually go and attack the Damocles and try to save the Earth. We have Wasp Rendering. We have a really, really great issue that harkens back to the concentration camps, and you have Scarlet Witch and Wonder Man trying to survive and keep hope alive and save everybody that they're able to. And that was a really, really poignant issue, I thought. And it also kind of took a break from all the action to kind of slow things down and give kind of a really great personal story for this. So that was interesting. So you have Marcus, who is the son of Kang, coming back, and he is the Scarlet Centurion. So he comes back and he's fighting alongside him, and then we end up getting the moment when Kang makes himself a huge hologram and is, towering over the Earth and is about to use his sword of Damocles to destroy the Earth and conquer it fully. And we have, amazingly enough, a holographic Captain America up next to him, and they have a full-on fight, which is amazing, epic to see. And, that's the only things you can happen in comics, so I love it. It was great. And so they fight. We have a great storyline with them. They're coming together. And then we have him losing. And Kang is a very proud villain. And he decides he would go to jail and he will be imprisoned. And then Marcus comes from the future, teleports in to try to transport him back. And Kang doesn't want anything to do with that. But when he's brought back into the future in the 30th century, we see that there are like 20-something corpses of Marcus before him, ones that were killed or Kang had killed because they were weak or inferior or were not as vindictive and cruel as needed to be. And it ends with Kang killing this Marcus. So that's kind of really fascinating to see the story twist even further with Kang, that he's so manipulative, he's so evil that his own desires gets in front of him. So that's really kind of fascinating to see. And I thought, overall, this is a really great story. I thought Kurt did a great job incorporating and making it very brutally real. In the first time that we really got kind of that story in comics about what it would actually be like if they took over the world, if there was an evil force that had took over the world piece by piece, and you have pockets of Avengers fighting in Europe and in Asia and America and Russia, and you have all these things happening, and you're like, it's really a horrible, terrible, hard moment to kind of go through and see them. And because it took 16 issues, almost a year and a bit, to tell the story, it was a lot of chunk of time for them to give up to just one sort of single story. But it was really great. I do recommend you to take it out and see the entire thing as an epic itself, because I like to see what you think about the Triune Understanding, what you think about the Kang, his whole reason why he was doing all this, the interactions between all the Avengers, particularly Wasp and Captain America and Miss Marvel in this. They were actually pretty fascinating to read. And then one of the things that Marvel did I thought was really, really great is they had 1 month, and I believe it was probably like February, March, somewhere around that. That was kind of the month they chose to do tributes to September 11th. And what they decided to do was do a "Nuff Said," which is a very important catchphrase from Marvel Life. And there were no words. It was a silent issue. And every single comic that was produced that month had a silent issue. And I thought that was really, really fascinating way to kind of honor the situation that happened, the devastation that happened in America. I thought it was really great the way the creators told the story with just the art and the way the panels were laid out, and I thought it was really, really fascinating. And one thing they added at the end of it, they had a sort of like a back matter where they kind of gave you, these are the descriptions of the story, this is what's supposed to go on, and you were able to kind of tell exactly what the story was, what was happening, and what were they going to say if they actually had the word, the speech bubbles there. And it was a really beautiful, fascinating way to kind of tribute that moment. So that was really great. It was included in this storyline as well. So that is the Kang Dynasty. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend you take it up and see, for yourselves if you haven't already. Like, subscribe, and share. And as always, I will be back with more Marvel goodness for you. And it's all geek to us. See ya.